In chapter 5, we're going to kind of stray away from linear equations. That's what we've been doing up until this point. And we're going to start looking at inequalities. So first of all, what's an inequality? Well, the word inequality literally means not equal, okay? In means not, let's break it down here. In means not, and equality means to be equal. So this is not equal. Okay. So in this chapter, we're going to be talking about expressions, or I can't call them equations anymore because they're not equal. We're going to be talking about basically expressions that are not equal. So if we're not talking about an equal sign anymore, not equal, then what are we going to be using? Now, you might be familiar with these symbols already. I'm almost positive that you've seen them before. And when you were really, really little, you might have seen this little alligator thing. And you might have been taught, okay, the alligator is going to eat the bigger number. So, I mean, if that helps you and you still want to think about it that way, you definitely can. But these symbols are referred to as less than, or equal to. So if you've got the less than symbol with a line underneath it, that means or equal to. Okay, and then this one pointing to the left, pointing open to the left, is going to be greater than. And I'm just realizing that the alligators are backwards for this. Oops. Okay. So then similarly, the one that's got the line underneath it will be greater than or equal to. Okay, so these are the two symbols, or the four symbols, that we need to know for this chapter. Okay. The next thing that we need to look to in our little quick introduction into inequalities is how to read the inequalities, because there's a specific way that you need to say them. And just like I've said before, they always are read from left to right. It's like when you're reading a book. If you read a sentence, you read it from left to right. You wouldn't read this sentence here backwards, number the to, variable the from, inequality. That doesn't make any sense if you go from the right to the left. You have to read from left to right, like you normally would. Okay? So reading this from left to right, we have n is greater than 4, and that's how it's read as, okay? And you see how it's open towards n? That's how you know that n is greater than. Remember with the alligators, its mouth is open to the bigger one because it wants to eat the more food, or the most food, the bigger number, etc., okay? The next one, now, when you're reading these, you want to read it with the variable first, okay? So in this next one, the variable is not first. So you are going to want to rearrange this, okay? Now, when we rearrange it, you're going to write n first, variable always first. Now, do you see in the original problem how the symbol is pointed towards n and it's open to the 3? When you write it that way, or when you rewrite it, you still want it to be pointed at the end and open to the 3, negative 3. So you need to rewrite it flipped around like that, negative 3. Okay, so now we can write it as it's supposed to be read. N is less than or equal to, because it's got a line underneath it, less than or equal to negative 3. And one final thing we need to look at is graphing. So when we're graphing on a number line, now all of these are going to be graphed on a number line all the way up until the very, very last section of this chapter when we start talking about linear inequalities that have more than one variable. So that's when we have to graph them on a coordinate plane, and we'll get there. But for now, all you need to worry about is graphing on a number line, okay? And this is how we're going to graph on a number line. When we have the less than or greater than symbols, the two that don't have a line underneath them, we use an open circle. Okay? So like that. All right? When we've got less than or equal to and greater than or equal to, we use a closed circle. Okay? So let me show you what I mean. I'm going to use these two examples from the reading part of your notes, and I'm going to graph them down here. Okay, so I'll do the first one in red. N is greater than 4. Okay, so how you're going to graph this is you're going to go to 4 on your number line. It's right here. And remember, this is greater than, so it's the one without a line underneath it. It's not greater than or equal to, it's just greater than. And those symbols use an open circle. So at 4, I'm putting an open circle. And because n is greater than 4, I'm going to shade or kind of draw a line in the direction of all the numbers that are going to be greater than 4. Okay, because they're telling you n is greater than 4. So like that. Okay, I'll do the other one in purple. N is less than or equal to -3. Okay, now this one does have the or equal to, the line at the bottom, so we need to use the bottom down here, the closed circles. So we have n is less than or equal to -3. So I need to find -3 and make a closed circle this time. And I'm talking about all numbers that are less than it. So I need to go in that direction. Okay, so that's how you would graph those two things. All right, let's move on and do a little bit from 5.1. Okay, guys. Now I'm going to kind of go pretty quickly through this section because this should all be very familiar to you. All right. The nice thing about solving linear inequalities is that solving inequalities is just like, exactly like solving equations. Okay, so for example, a linear equation, 2x minus 3 equals 27. Okay, how would you solve this? With an equal sign, this is an equation. We would add 3, so it's 2x equals 30, and we divide it by 2, and x would be equal to 15, okay? You're going to do it the same exact way, okay? There's no equal sign anymore. It's replaced with those symbols we were just talking about, here and here and here and here and here, etc. But you're still doing the same exact steps. Okay, the only added part is that once you solve it, you have to graph it, and then that's it. Oh, also, I do need you to write your answer in a sentence, okay? And I'll show you what I mean. Yes, you do need to write it out, all right? So let's get started. Number 1, we have 10 minus x is less than -9. So you're going to treat this less than symbol the exact same way you would treat an equal symbol. You're going to, if you want, draw a line down the equal sign, but it's not an equal sign anymore. Draw a line right down it to split your equation in half. And we need to isolate the variable. We need to solve for x. So imagining that this were an equal sign, how would you solve for x? We would add 10 to both sides. Okay? And then we'd have x, leave the sign the way it is less than 1. All right? So here's how we would graph x is less than 1. On our number line, we need to go to 1. And should we use an open circle or a closed circle? Think about the symbol. You can flip back to the other page if you don't remember. Less than should use an open circle. And because we're talking about all the numbers less than 1, we need to go to the left. We need to go in this direction. Okay. And it might be a little bit easier to see if I start using colors. So let me redo this in red. Okay, much better. Okay, so we solved, we graphed, and now we need to write it as a sentence. We just said it though, probably a couple times already. X is less than 1. Yes, you do need to write it out. Okay, that's it, all done. Let's go down with the odds here. Number 3, -2 is greater than or equal to x minus 5. Draw a line down what would be your equal sign. And how would we normally solve this? We would add 5. Okay. So -2 plus 5 is going to be 3 is greater than or equal to x. All right, so let's graph that. We need to go to X, we need to go to 3 on our number line, and we're talking greater than or equal to. So open or close circle should be a closed circle. And we're talking that, oh, wait a second. We don't know yet. We got to rewrite this so that the variable comes first. So let's rewrite it. X is going to be, remember, when you flip everything around, this sign or the symbol in the middle also has to flip. It's pointed to X and opened at 3. So point it to X and leave it open to the 3. All right, so now we can read it. Is less than or equal to 3. So we're talking all of the numbers that are less than 3, so we got to go in this direction again. Okay, and close circle because, like we said, it's less than or equal to. So X is less than
or equal to 3.
All right. Okay, let's move on to number 5. We're going to draw a line down our equal sign. What I want you to do before we move on here is for number 5 and 7 and for number 4, I want you to change those to pluses. So I want this to be 12 plus n. I want this one to be -2 plus n. And I want number 4 to be -7 plus a. Okay? The reason for this is because if you leave this a negative, you end up having to divide by a negative, and we haven't gotten to that part yet. There's something special that happens when you divide by a negative. So I don't want to look at that yet. We'll get there soon enough. So just change those to positives for me, please. All right, let's go ahead and solve this. We would subtract 12, and 19 minus 12 is going to be 7 is, whoops, I don't have a 7. Less than or equal to n. So we have to graph this first. Let's flip it around like we have been. N is greater than or equal to 7, okay? When we flip, we have to make sure we flip the sign too. It's open to n, so it has to be open to n. So on your paper, I know that these are negatives, but I want you to, in your head, imagine, I guess, that these are positives. Treat them as if they are positives, okay? Because I had a little bit of a typo. So we've got n is greater than or equal to 7, so we need to find 7, which is going to be here between 8 and 6. And we need a closed circle because it's greater than or equal to. So closed circle. And we're talking about all the numbers bigger than 7. So we're going to go in, well, we should be going in this direction. This number line is backwards. Okay, that was a bad example. Let's get to number 7. I'm going to have you pause the video and try to solve this on your own. Resume it when you think you're done, and we'll go over the graphing. Okay. Hopefully you didn't forget to switch it around so that your variable comes first. And this is n is greater than or equal to -5. Okay, and let's graph. So we need to find -5, which is here, and we're talking greater than or equal to, so that's a closed circle, and all the numbers bigger than -5 are going to be in this direction. Okay? All right, guys, the evens are left for you. 2, 4, 6, and 8. Try these on your own, and don't forget to answer your summer questions. Have a good night.